My sister, who I raised all her life, told me to stay away from her wedding because she was embarrassed to admit I raised her. I smiled through my tears and said okay, but on her wedding day, karma hits hard. Her groom's speech exposed her and our parents, before canceling the wedding. Now she wants me to come to her rescue. I, a 32-year-old female, was not invited to my sister's wedding, which took place 3 days ago. It was really disheartening because I believe I was the one who had pretty much raised my sister ever since we were very young. She's about 8 years younger than me, and we basically grew up without our parents. When I was 10 years old, my parents just randomly woke up one day and decided that they were sick of being our parents. It wasn't very surprising, since even when I was really young, it was apparent that they treated me very differently than other parents treated their kids. They always maintained a distance from me and my sister, as they weren't really interested in building a relationship with us. I tried really hard for a long time to get close to them, but it never really worked. They were always too busy for us. We had sitters to take care of us, and at other times, our grandparents. My sister was just 2 years old when our parents decided that we would be better off living with our grandparents, my dad's parents, on a more permanent basis. This decision was influenced by their starting a business together, but for that, they had to move away. Both my parents were working at the time, but I guess the idea of being partners in a business really appealed to them, so they decided to take my dad's coworker up on that offer. It worked out for them, since they are doing pretty well now and have been for many years. While it was great for them on the financial and work front, they gave up their family for this. My dad could have easily chosen to take his daughters with him, but he decided to leave us behind with our grandparents. It was just him and my mother who moved away to help set up the business. I was used to my parents ignoring me, but for them to completely abandon me and my sister and leave us with our aging grandparents was something nobody had seen coming, not even my grandparents. They were not happy about this arrangement, and they tried really hard to fight with my dad and get him to take us with them. But he insisted that he wouldn't be able to take out the time for us, and we would just be another burden on him, which he couldn't afford because he and my mother needed to channel all their energy into the new business. My grandparents never told me about any of this and tried to put on a happy face, but they forgot that I had ears. When they were fighting, they never really bothered to keep things quiet. So, at a very young age, I knew what their priorities were. At the age of 10, I decided that I was never going to count on them for anything in my entire life. After they left, it wasn't like they were out of my life for good, but they would still come back during the holidays. The only difference was that after they left me with my grandparents, I decided not to have any expectations from them. Whenever they would visit, I would also maintain my distance from them. So, I think it's very obvious that I had a very strange relationship with my parents. My sister was very young at the time, so I tried to be there for her to the best of my abilities. Understanding why our parents weren't always there for her like other parents was difficult, so I would just always dodge those questions. But as she grew older, it became more and more difficult for me to avoid those questions, and even my grandparents started finding it hard not to answer. Eventually, when she was around 14, we told her the truth. After that, she started behaving in a very confused way with our parents whenever they would visit. By then, their business had started doing well, and they could have easily moved back, but they chose to stay away because they had already built a life for themselves elsewhere. They didn't see the point of coming back, believing that we would be able to handle our lives on our own. After my sister found out about everything, she would try to act aloof when our parents would visit, but occasionally, she would slip right back into her old behavior around them. I didn't even blame her. It must have been confusing for her as a kid. Anyway, just like my parents, I had also built a life away from them, and gradually, I made my peace with their absence. I graduated high school, graduated college, and got my first job, all without them. Unfortunately, I lost my grandpa when I was 22 and my grandma when I was 26. The only thing I'm thankful for is that they were at least here to witness me graduate high school and get my first job. By the time I lost both of them, I was doing reasonably well enough in life. Even my sister was 18 and an adult when our grandma passed away. Our maternal grandparents had passed away long ago when I was in my early teens, so we were completely on our own after that. But I would honestly say that I had been raising my sister long before our grandparents passed away. Even though it was my parents who would always send money back home for us, I was the one who was actually raising her. Let's be real, our grandparents were pretty old, and half the time, they didn't even know what was going on in our lives. They were just doing the best they could, but I was the one who was actually there for my sister. So the fact that she eventually picked our parents over me was all the more embarrassing and hurtful. My sister is 24 now, and she got engaged a couple of months ago after dating her boyfriend for the past 3 years. I had always been very supportive of the relationship right from the beginning. In fact, I think I was the one who actually encouraged her to pursue him after her last breakup. Her ex had broken her heart, and she was afraid of saying yes to her fiancé when he asked her out. But I had pushed her to give it a try, and here is where they ended up. But I guess that wasn't enough to warrant an invitation to her wedding. In fact, she even told me a couple of weeks ago that I shouldn't be expecting an invitation, since she didn't really want me at her wedding. And the reason she told me she didn't want me at her wedding was something I couldn't have imagined even in my wildest dreams. It was because she was basically picking our parents over me, like I already mentioned. For context, our parents moved back here just 6 months ago. They think the business can run on its own now, and their constant monitoring is no longer required, so they have moved back. But I really think they moved back because they were bored of their lives there. The first thing they did was try to rebuild a connection with us. Now you can watch the second part by clicking share and more.